Two of the stupidest characters ever created, the absolute worst role models you can imagine, controversially violent, and yet media critics decades ahead of their time. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Beavis and Butt-head. Beavis and Butt-head is an animated series that originally aired on MTV from 1993 to 1997 under a cloud of controversy due to its graphic depiction of violence and the alleged influence on children watching, which begs the question, are Beavis and Butt-head the stupid humans, or was it really just us, the viewers, all along?
You're right. It's fact. Yes, you're right. You were right. You were correct. It's fact.
Beavis and Butt-head are two American teenagers with absolutely nothing better to do with their time than be the absolute dumbest kids you've ever met. They sit around all day watching television, eating crap, they have no future ahead of them, and great! Now they have me sounding like my parents 30 years ago. While that description fits a lot of American teenagers in the 90s, Beavis and Butt-head certainly merit categorization as examples of the worst. Not quite sociopaths, but definitely on their way to textbook examples. They enjoy setting fires, abusing animals, and laughing at the pain they inflict on each other. They aren't totally averse to feeling emotions or a desire for human contact. In fact, they regularly express a desire to have some sort of physical relationship with any girl, anywhere, though the likelihood of that even happening is slim given their inability to find motivation to do anything to better themselves or contribute to society in any way. Unless you count critiquing music videos on television, Beavis and Butt-head both have a passion for music, or at least sharing their uneducated, uninformed passion for music based on what their immediate gut instinct tells them. No, they're not going to create their own music, they're just going to tell you if yours sucks. Hey, look, there isn't much going on here, but that's kind of the point. They're young American idiots who are going to grow up into older American idiots. They're going to hurt themselves, they're going to hurt each other, they're going to break things. They're Beavis and Butt-head. Thank you to 80stees.com for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description below and use code TOYGALAXY to get 30% off your order today. What's the first thing that pops into your head when I say the 1980s or the 1990s? Don't think about it, just say it. 1, 2, 3, Rubik's Cube. Yes, they have that, or they had that, or they will have that. 80stees.com is constantly refreshing their inventory with officially licensed t-shirts featuring characters, quotes, and logos from cartoons, comics, TV shows, movies, wrestling, and music from the 1970s through the 2000s. So while I can't guarantee that everything you can think of will be in stock, I can guarantee that you'll always be surprised by the range of their selection. 80stees.com has something for everyone. Your favorite heroes like Batman, Spider-Man, Mega Man, Deadpool, and Wolverine, Voltron, both Lion and Vehicle, Star Wars, Stargate, old and older Battlestar Galactica, Motley Crue, Biz Markie, Pink Floyd, and Jimi Hendrix. Find the shirt that's right for you, the one that speaks to your interests, and lets the world know that there's no bigger fan of scratch and sniff stickers, Spam, or Kellogg's Fruit Loops than you. And you can prove it because you're wearing the shirt. Click the link below and use code TOYGALAXY for 30% off your order today. Again, that's code TOYGALAXY for 30% off your order. And thanks again to 80stees.com. Beavis and Butt-head were created by Mike Judge. Judge grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He graduated from the University of California, San Diego in 1985 with a bachelor's degree in physics. In 1987, he worked in Silicon Valley at a company that made computer graphics cards and the software to support them before realizing that was not the life for him. He quit after 3 months, joined a blues band, and went back to school. He began his animation journey in 1989 as he pursued a master's degree in math at the University of Texas at Dallas. He bought a Bolex 16mm camera and started making his own animated short films that were showcased in animation festivals in 1992. That same year, 4 of his short films, Frog Baseball, Office Space, The Honky Problem, and Peace, Love, and Understanding, were featured on the second season of MTV's alternative animation showcase, Liquid Television. Created in 1991 by Japhet Asher, Liquid Television mashed together a bunch of unrelated animated shorts that echoed the manic late-night channel flipping of teens and young adults, metaphorically putting all their pop culture interests in a blender to see what pours out the other end. Liquid Television was a place for independent animators whose work was, in many cases, experimental, weird, and/or intended for adults. Furthermore, these artists worked in different styles of animation, pushing the medium to be something more than what it had traditionally been in America, strictly kids' entertainment. Frog Baseball and Peace, Love, and Understanding starred Beavis and Butt-head, whose voices and theme music Judge performed himself. They were two American teenage boys indirectly inspired by kids that Judge knew growing up, but directly by lots of dumb kids around the country bored out of their skulls and testing the limits of their own morality and mortality. It was a short path from liquid television shorts in 1992 to a full series on MTV in 1993. 29 new episodes aired through July of 1993, which continued to feature Beavis and Butt-head doing stupid things, living their mundane lives, and trying to score with chicks, but now those narrative segments were broken up by music video criticism. Beavis and Butt-head commenting on music videos solved two problems. One, it incorporated MTV's primary product, music videos, into the show to maintain some sense of continuity with the rest of their programming, and two, it padded the episodes. See, Judge was animating the episodes himself in his own house, which he has said took roughly 6 to 8 weeks to make 2 minutes. Cutting to Beavis and Butt-head watching music videos allowed him to stretch out episodes with, in many cases, just dialogue, which is way easier and quicker to produce. Ironically, their music criticism became a large draw for the show, similar to Mystery Science Theater 3000's heckling of bad movies on Comedy Central. Judge has admitted that initially he didn't think viewers would want to hear Beavis and Butt-head talking over the videos. He was wrong, and happy to be so. Their assessment of music videos was usually pretty simple. If it was hard rock or heavy metal, it kicked ass. If it wasn't, it sucked. Hearing that kind of commentary about MTV on MTV was refreshingly rebellious in a way that worked perfectly for a network who marketed themselves as precisely that. The key for MTV was to not take these two dummies seriously. They were, after all, dummies. But it was harder for parents groups and politicians to dismiss Beavis and Butt-head's clearly stupid behavior as anything but dangerously influential. Right out of the gate with frog baseball, Beavis and Butt-head performed acts of abuse against animals. They used firecrackers to blow up insects. They used a frog as a baseball, and the animation doesn't pull punches when it comes to showing the results. Beavis and Butt-head regularly disregarded any concerns for personal and public property, and of the two, Beavis was inclined to playing with fire, which shouldn't have been a problem unless Beavis and Butt-head was a kids show, which it wasn't. See, in October of 1993, a 5-year-old boy set fire to his family's mobile home with a cigarette lighter. The fire ultimately caused the death of his 2-year-old sister. The mother blamed an episode of Beavis and Butt-head where they played with fire and said it was fun. That was at a time when the US government was actively working to force Hollywood to self-regulate the amount of violence on television to prevent exactly this kind of incident from occurring, arguing that it was increasingly difficult for parents to keep track of which channels and which programs were safe for kids. Stupidly, many people just assumed, and still assume today, that animation was inherently safe and for kids. Was the fire and subsequent death MTV's fault for airing Beavis and Butt-head before 10 p.m.? Was it the parents' fault for letting their 5-year-old watch Beavis and Butt-head, then leaving them unsupervised with a cigarette lighter? Who can say? All we know for sure is that MTV wanted to avoid any legal liability and pulled every reference of fire from every episode of Beavis and Butt-head that existed and prevented them from doing anything like that in the future. Meanwhile, the neighbors of the burned down house confirmed that the 5-year-old's parents didn't even have cable, so, you know, who can say?
Faithful viewers of the show old enough not to take it so seriously feel MTV shouldn't take the show's criticism so seriously either.
I don't think it's MTV's fault at all. I think it's the parents' fault for maybe letting kids like 5 years old watching the show.
They're gonna, have cable in the house and know that rated R movies are gonna be on the movie channels, and Beavis and Butt-head are gonna be on MTV. Then they should watch your kids.
In this Parma store, Pat Graham's been selling out her Beavis and Butt-head merchandise, T-shirts, hats, buttons, and bumper stickers, and says MTV may have sold out its viewers with its changes.
Probably wouldn't be as funny, I guess.
A similar incident happened in 1994, where an 8-month-old was killed by a bowling ball tossed off an overpass. Once again, the 18-year-old assailant claimed to have been inspired by an episode of Beavis and Butt-head. Once again, it was revealed that he neither watched the show nor had cable. We'll never know if it was Beavis and Butt-head or something else. Who can say for sure? Controversy aside, Beavis and Butt-head was a wildly successful show for MTV, consistently ranking among their best performing series and continuing to bolster their carefully crafted counterculture reputation. Beavis and Butt-head aired 6 seasons through 1996, at which time they went to the movies.
Слышь, точилка, пойдем что-нибудь расфигачим. Ладно, пора кое-кому надрать задницу. Бивис, ты полный идиот.
Rated PG-13, Beavis and Butt-head Do America was a feature film that broadened the scope of Beavis and Butt-head's rural adventures, written by Mike Judge and Joe Stillman, directed by Mike Judge, starring Mike Judge. The movie follows Beavis and Butt-head on a wild adventure across the country from Vegas to DC in search of their stolen TV. And you're not going to believe this, but the whole thing was kicked off by their misunderstanding of the word do, because the guy that hired them for $10,000 meant do as in kill his wife, and they thought it meant do his wife. Beavis and Butt-head Do America starred Mike Judge, obviously, backed by the star power of Bruce Willis, Demi Moore, Cloris Leachman, and Robert Stack. While they did not do any music video critiquing, the film was supported by a soundtrack featuring artists like Red Hot Chili Peppers, LL Cool J, White Zombie, Ozzy Osbourne, Butthole Surfers, and AC/DC. Released in December of 1996, it was a huge success. It made over $60 million against a budget of around $12 million, making it the highest December opening of all time at the time, a title it held for exactly 1 year when the crown was taken by Scream 2. One more season ran through November of 1997 before Mike Judge finally had to call it quits. A roller coaster ride through Hollywood that he boarded in 1993 with almost no expectations had changed his life and the landscape of television, and he never had a chance to catch his breath. Judge needed a break from Beavis and Butt-head and wanted to develop other projects like a movie version of his first animated film, Office Space, and a new television series already in production called King of the Hill. And while he didn't work directly on the series, Daria Morgendorffer, a character who first appeared on the Beavis and Butt-head Season 2 episode Scientific Stuff in 1993, got her own new series called Daria. Beavis and Butt-head may have been morons on television, but they were big-time moneymakers when it came to licensed merchandise. Hats, t-shirts, playing cards, PVC figures, keychains, dolls, Halloween masks, anything you could put a cornholio on. There were books like Chicken Soup for the Butt, video games for the Game Gear, Genesis, Super NES, Game Boy, and multiple PC games. Marvel Comics published 28 issues of Beavis and Butt-head under their Marvel Absurd imprint, so technically they are not part of the Marvel Universe. King of the Hill ended its 13-season run in 2010, at which time Judge switched back to production of Beavis and Butt-head. Season 8 of Beavis and Butt-head aired on MTV in 2011. Music videos were back, but this time they weren't alone. Adapting to the changing media landscape, Beavis and Butt-head find themselves watching and commenting on clips from Jersey Shore, True Life, 16 and Pregnant, Teen Mom, and more. Ratings were initially strong, certainly strong enough to do a second season, but MTV declined to continue the series. For years, Beavis and Butt-head were only available as fragments of their original selves. Like so many shows that depended on popular music, those rights frequently expired before the series could be collected on DVD. In fact, the complete collection is just the narrative parts of the episodes without the music videos and related commentary. For those that grew up with the series, a critical factor in their enjoyment and one of the reasons it was so popular to begin with. Over a decade later, Beavis and Butt-head returned again. Initially planned for a series on Comedy Central, it was instead leveraged as a launch title on the new Paramount Plus streaming service in 2022. But before that, Beavis and Butt-head went back to the movies again. Well, sort of. Beavis and Butt-head Do the Universe was released on Paramount Plus June 23, 2022, ahead of the premiere of the new series, which followed on August 4th. This time, Beavis and Butt-head are catapulted from 1998, 24 years into the future through a black hole after attending space camp. They arrive in 2022, where they meet up with smart versions of themselves. Smart Beavis and Smart Butt-head explain that they, the original or dumb versions, have 2 days to get to a portal on top of Mount Everest, or the entire multiverse will collapse. But that was only part of the intended Paramount Plus rollout. A new movie, a new series that picks up where the movie left off, and remastered versions of all of the original 227 MTV-based episodes that include the music videos for the first time in decades. Eventually. A second Paramount Plus season landed in April of 2023. It turns out that Beavis and Butt-head were not the television cataclysm that some politicians and parents worried that they might be. In fact, let the record show that they weren't even the most awful thing that MTV themselves produced. 3 years after Beavis and Butt-head ended their original run, MTV delivered the Jackasses of Jackass to the world. A more dangerously influential show than Beavis and Butt-head could have ever imagined, not to mention Jersey Shore, True Life, 16 and Pregnant, Teen Mom, and more. And that was all followed by this tube of you. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, all designed to amplify every Beavis and Butt-head that walks this earth, spouting their unsolicited opinions about everything from music videos to the videos of people sharing their unsolicited thoughts about music videos. 30 years ago, Beavis and Butt-head's stupidity was considered so dangerous to kids that the US government and MTV moved to censor their worst offenses. Today, any kid with a phone can watch an unbroken stream of the most awful people doing the most awful things. Algorithms incentivize increasingly dangerous behaviors, then serve them to the most vulnerable consumers, each platform passing the responsibility of content moderation onto the user. Isn't that ironic? There's still more Beavis and Butt-head in the future. As of this video, another new season, the 11th overall, is slated to arrive sometime in 2025 on Comedy Central. Because Beavis and Butt-head are like a comet, returning to Earth every decade or so as a measure of our changing social and media landscape, their stupidity stays the same, and we, as a species, keep getting stupider. You getting that on the Foley? Getting on the audio? My back cracking in 5 different places? Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. If you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Several different tiers to address your specific Secret Galaxy content needs. Check out our new Secret Galaxy merch shop at secretgalaxy.shop. All merchandise is physically in stock and ready to ship. Links to all of this in the description below. And let us know in the comments down below if you've ever watched any version of Beavis and Butt-head. I definitely watched some of it when it first aired. I had friends who could not stop doing the Beavis and Butt-head laughs and walking around saying fire and all that stuff. It was definitely funny at times, but for me, not 227 episodes of funny. That said, watching some of the bits in preparation for this video really put into perspective how utterly stupid they were and how incredibly innocent the actual humor was, and also that they both should have died at least 100 times, which is a reminder that they were in fact cartoon characters. So yeah, don't try this at home. Cut.